Hello and welcome back. This is Susheta Sengupta Roy from Swami Vivekananda Institute of Modern Science, Department of Media Science. Now, I have been discussing about the media laws and different acts of the media laws. It includes the Constitution and the Articles too. Now, today we'll be discussing about a very small act, which is the Indian Telegraph Act. Well, for ages before, like today is a day of wireless and digital, and we have mobiles everywhere. We have wireless communication, and everything is absolutely a modernized format. But and this telegraph was the only mode of communication long back when there wasn't a telephone or there wasn't a mobile phone or the digital communication or this viral communication. They used to communicate through a small machine which was like it just had sound, like a dip and dash and a dip and a dash. So it's like a binary system, and people who are in the computers, they must be knowing about the binary system. It's like a 1-0 compact. It's like a language of 1-0. That's a binary, and the telegraphic language is the dip and dash. So it's just like that. So like what we are talking about law. So what we are going to study today is the Indian Telegraph Act and what does it has to say. Now, the Indian Telegraph Act, the main object of the Telegraph Act was to give power to the government to install telegraph lines on private as well as public properties. Now, when you have to have telegraph, and not only this dip and dash, and then later on the telephone came in, and at that point of time, telephone was absolutely dependent on wires, and the wires cannot obviously run through government properties. It will obviously cross through a lot of private properties too. So, but then people may or may not allow it, but this is for a government cause, or it's a cause for a public cause. So in that case there has to be a law, and as per the Telegraph Act, the law empowered the government to install those lines in private property as well as public property. They can put in the lines anywhere you want, just to facilitate the telegraphic system. So the telegraph is defined as an appliance, instrument, material, or apparatus used or capable of being used for transmission or reception of signs, signals, writing, images, and sound or intelligence of any nature by wire or by radio waves. So through telephonic communication to telegraphic communication, even till today, like the naval, the system of signaling is dependent on the telegraphic system. So this is a composition, or it's a transmission of what? It will transmit signals, it will transmit signs, it can transmit writings, images, sounds, and any of the intelligence of any of the nature which is through wire. But make sure that Telegraph Act covers all these materials which can be communicated through wire. Now, when we talk about the Telegraph Act, it was it came into force in 1885. So it was much before the independence of India, because the telegraphic importance or the telegraphic rules were predominant or was essential even when the British rule was here. They had to send messages from one place to other. They had to have these rules. So the Indian Telegraphic Act is way back of 1885, and what are the privileges of the government with respect to telegraph? So what is the privilege that government gets? So as per the section 4 of the Telegraphic Act, it deals with exclusive privilege of the government to establish, maintain, and use telegraphs. It also provides for the government to grant license to establish, maintain, or work a telegraph. So the government may grant such license on certain conditions and for a license fee. So if you enjoy this telegraphic communication system, government will have the privilege to they can grant a license free, whatever. So like under section 5, the next section of the Telegraph Act of 1885, it says that the Telegraph Act is commonly known as the wire tapping clause. So it will be tap, 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 tap sound, and that will be through wire. As I said, so it gives power to the government to take possession of any licensed telegraphs in case of a public emergency or in interest of the public safety. So it also orders interception of communication in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with the foreign states, or public order, or for preventing incitement to the commission of an offense. So, however, the government has to follow the procedure established by law by issuing such order. So, even if it is the telegraph being used by the government, even the government has to abide by certain rules and regulations. So, the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, under Section 7, it says that the government has the power to make a rule with regard to the following issues. Now, what are the rules which government has to, make? What are the powers? So, like 1, under Section 7, rates and other conditions and restrictions subject to which messages will be transmitted within India. That will be decided by the government. And B is precaution to be taken to prevent improper interception or disclosure of messages. So even if it's under the government, so there should not be any illegal interception, and it has to be disclosed. So that a government's strict rule is there, and was there rather. So under Section 10, it says the Telegraph Authority has the power to maintain telegraph lines. So the Telegraph Authority can only take possession of land for the purpose of installing and maintaining telegraph lines and posts. So government cannot say that this from this on, maybe some Mr. X has a land, and the line of the telegraph land has to pass on from that land. Doesn't mean that the land will be possessed by the government after that. The government will have power only as far as the installation and maintaining of that line is concerned. So it will be liable to pay adequate compensation to all persons who have a stake in such property. So the Telegraph Act also gives power to the Telegraph Authority to enter on property for the purpose of repairing or removing telegraph lines or posts. So if somebody has a telegraph post or telegraph line from his land, the government will have powers only to repair and maintain, or maybe disable. Not that government get the possession of the land. It's just as far as the power will be, as far as the maintenance and erection is concerned. So, as per the Telegraph Act of 1885, Section 12 to 15, it says that the procedure applicable to take possession of property. Now, the Telegraph Authority has to take permission and pay any expenses for setting up communication equipment on property under the control of a local authority. So even if the property is under a local authority, maybe panchayat or somebody, the local authority may also take the Telegraph Authority to remove any telegraph line or post if it finds it necessary to do so. Suppose the local authorities think that the telegraph line should not pass from this place because passing from this place may create problem to the locals. Maybe it may be harmful. It may have a problem. In that case, they can obviously request them to remove it. So any dispute between Telegraph Authority and local authority will be decided by an officer appointed by the central government. So in this case, only the central government will take a decision that should it be removed or should it be there, or it will be under the maintenance of the telegraphic authority, or it will be it will be maintained or erected, or it will be removed. It will be taken care of by a central authority. Now, the Indian Telegraph Act 1885, Section 20 to 32, which describes the penalties, like if somebody doesn't abide by the rules and regulations of the Telegraph Act of 1885, what are the penalties to be charged? So in that case, Section 20 says, whosoever establishes, maintains or works within India a telegraph without proper license or authorization from the government shall be punished with imprisonment, which may extend to 3 years, or fine, or with both. So if this somebody is without proper license or authorization, if somebody maintains, somebody does anything in the Telegraph Act, he may be imprisoned for 3 years with fine or with both. Now we'll get to the next section, which is like Section 23 of the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. So that says, if any person without permission of competent authority enters the signal room of a telegraph office. Now, one has to understand the signal room of a telegraph office is absolutely confidential. It can be an army signal, it can be navy signal, it can be any other signal from any other authority, it can be a government authority, whatever it may be. So it has to be, there has to be a defense for it. There has to be a defense. So what we can understand is, as per section 23, that without the permission of competent authority, entering the signal room of a telegraph office of the government or enters a fenced enclosure in contravention of any rule or notice not to do so, or refuses to quit such room or enclosure on being requested to do so by any officer or servant employed therein, shall be fined. That's under section 23. So section 24 says, if any person does any of the acts mentioned in section 23, like not listening to the person who is requesting not to enter, or if you have entered, if it's said that please leave the room, you don't leave. In this case, what happens, with the intention of unlawfully learning and content of any message, or of committing any offense punishable under this act, shall be imprisoned for a term which may extend to 1 year, in addition to fine, with which he is punishable under section 23. So in this case, he doesn't. If somebody doesn't hear or doesn't listen to, so in that case, if it's unlawful entrance, unlawful disturbance, that case he can be punished up to 1 year. Now next is section 25 of Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. So section 25 says that if any person intending to prevent or obstruct the transmission or delivery of any message, or to intercept or to acquaint himself with the content of any message, or to commit mischief, damages, removes, tampers with, or touches any battery, machinery, telegraph lines, post, or other things, whatever being part of or used in or about any telegraph or in the working thereof, shall be imprisoned for a term which may extend to 3 years, or with fine, or with both. So no tampering, no touching, no committing mischiefs, no damages, not removing anything from the telegraphic system. So anything is done against the Telegraph Act is imprisonment for 3 years. Now, finally, we'll come to section 30, section 30 of the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. If any person fraudulently retains or conceals, removes, holds without any reason any message which ought to have been delivered to some other person, or being required by a telegraph officer to deliver up any such message, neglects to refuses to do so, shall be imprisoned for a term which may extend to 2 years, or fine, or with both. So in this case, what happens, somebody knows that this message is important, has to be transmitted to the telegraph officer, and does not do that. In that case, that person is imprisoned for 2 years with fine, or with both. So there we come to an end of the Telegraph Act of 1885. We'll be back again with another small act. Till then, stay blessed.